Hey everyone, welcome to your Photoshop Creative Challenge. My name is Wade Acuff. I'll be your host today. I've been your host for yesterday's challenge and the day before that. I'll be your host tomorrow. I'll be your host all next week. But if you want even more challenges, you can find them in a link below in the description. You'll also find a link to our Discord where you can get feedback for your work. If you have any questions you want to ask, that's where you can ask them. You can also ask them in chat. You'll also find a starter file link for you. Hello, chat. How's it going? I think everybody knows, but does anybody know what today is? Do we all know that it's sort of a nerdy, geeky national holiday, sort of, or international, I guess? I guess if you're into it, that's what it would be. But yeah, today is May the 4th, as in May the 4th be with you. It's a Star Wars thing. I don't know how much we can get away with mentioning Star Wars before lawyers come after us. So we're doing something themed, something Star Wars themed adjacent, I suppose. We'll see how it goes. Let's take a look at our starter file here. Layer styles, make a custom and memeable trading card design using layer styles and type tools. Well, if you don't know what a trading card is, that's sort of our trading card game. That's like a Pokemon or a Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering. Typically, there's a character, creature, or item that the card just describes what it does, and there's all kinds of rules and stuff. We're not dealing with the rules. We're just making a design. So I recommend you start your designs with a sketch. Imagine that. Simple sketch. I'm going to go ahead and make a new artboard. The size for this is 2.5 by 3.5, I believe, inches. I have that at 300 DPI. But I'm going to go ahead and make a new artboard and just add a new layer. Fill it, Shift F5 with a dark color. Just something not quite black, just a little gray there. And we're going to get friendly with our shape tools in Photoshop. Using lots of rectangles, there's going to be an ellipse. We're trying to get everybody involved. But yeah, we're just kind of going to reproduce this sketch. The middle part here is for a photo. So the first thing we're going to do is start making, let's just drag this out and make a little square, a little box. And we'll talk a little bit about this. I'm going to go ahead and show in the properties over here that you have, just like you do in Illustrator, if you're familiar with Illustrator, we have a fill, a stroke, multiple stroke options, and then we have these rounded corners. I'm going to go ahead, well, I want to link all of them, bring them all down to 0. And then let's bring our layers up a little bit. I'm going to immediately make a copy of this, just holding Alt or Option and dragging up. And I'm going to make, let's see. Oh, I want to align this to center. You'll see me bump up here and align things to center very often, just to make sure we're nice and centered on the canvas. So we also need to get familiar with our direct selection and path tools. If you press A, that will get you there. If you shift and press A, that'll change those out just to show you what they look like. This is what they look like. And this way we can manipulate these as we see fit. So one of these is going to be our mask. I'll go ahead and designate this as a mask. We'll use it for a photo later on. And I'm just lining this up to where these little cross sections. This is for me. Obviously your sketch could be way different. But I'm going to call this one, I'm going to name this mask. And then grab the other rectangle and move, nope, move it down for our info. I'm actually going to pull it up just a little bit, just to kind of match up over here. And that should be fine. These don't have to, I mean, they can intersect. They don't have to intersect. The mask is not going to be seen anyway. All right, so from there, we want to make this title. I will go ahead and call this info and pull this down. Again, we're going to select our shape tool and just drag out a shape that is similar to what we see over on the sketch. Back into our direct selection tool. And I do want to drag this off because I'm going to add, let's see, let's change this a little bit, just pull it down just a tiny bit. And I do want the edge, the left edge of this kind of bumping close, not quite intersecting. because I'm going to come back to our shape tools with that selected. And if you hold down Alt or Option, you'll get a little negative sign, which will be subtracting from our shape. So we've got a little subtraction. You can see it up here. Let's see if I select it, it may show it. Sometimes it doesn't bump, but that is subtracting from the shape. And then I'm going to just, while we're still selected on it, I'm going to put it at an angle that looks like the angle from the other one, and just make sure it goes off the edge. Shift A again, select it. And I don't want this coming, I don't want this corner. I want a little bit of space, just like we have a little bit of space over here, because I don't want to make a tangent. And I do want to copy this. So if I hold down Alt again, inside the shape, it'll let me duplicate the shape. And that is kind of what we're looking for. And then I want to just add a little bit of sliver just to kind of give us this design over here. All right, so we have our title. And then moving right along, we're going to make, you know what, we'll just use the info as another copy. And then call this, I'm going to call this action. It's going to be our action bar. And I'm just going to pull this to size, mimicking this little section. Whoop, whoop. If you hold down Alt, it'll scale both ends at the same time. And let's see, I do want to pull this out just a little bit. And then with the direct selection, that's the white arrow. Once you see that these anchor points are selected, you can press P for the pen tool and then just drag, click and drag out a little, just with your pen tool selected, click and drag, so that when we grab this with our direct selection, it will give us this nice little curve. So I think we're getting close with that. We need to have we can't forget our little ellipse. That was a lackluster whoop whoop. Well, come on, whoop whoop. I don't know. What are we doing here? We're not here to evaluate whoops. That's another show. But we've sort of got our layout. There's a couple things missing. There's this outer line, which I think I'll use the info again and just make a copy. Let me not forget to name our button. And I'm going to drag that down just so that it's above our info. But with this info copy, I'm going to select, again, the direct selection, and I'm going to pull this out slightly. We'll see what it looks like, because we're going to change the appearance on this. If you need to get to the properties panel and it's not up for you, just come to your window, go to properties. And I'm going to get rid of our fill, add a stroke. I don't want a dotted line, so we're going to change that to just a straight line, and I want this to be 1 pixel. And let's see what that looks like. That is not 1 pixel. What did I change? Is this the one? Oh, it did everything but change. There we go. So now we have that. I don't like where some of this, there's like a little corner up here for our mask, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. This is just about cleaning up some things, just to kind of do that. I do want to add a little flare. There's rounded area over here. That's what I want to add to our info and to our line. I'm going to call this line. Drag this down. And then in the bottom of that, at the bottom, I'm just going to unlink these corners and add some curve. And I'm just going to try and match this up. Just going to try and eyeball this. Just, it's a little off. I think maybe our line can be bumped up a little bit. Maybe too much. There we go. It does need to be centered. Just a note, if you're on the direct selection tool and you try and align it, it's going to align it to the middle of both artboards. I'm not sure why, but if you select with the move tool, V on your keyboard, and then come to align, it will just align based off of the layer selection. Okay, I like this. I don't like where this landed either. There's a weird little bump. Maybe we can extend, let's see. We can extend this guy out slightly. That does make a full-on tangent for us. Okay, cool. Good enough. Awesome. All right, so now moving into our layer masks, layer styles. First, let's actually use that mask we made. I'm going to pop into my library and grab a photo for today. So I've got something, I don't know, you come up with stuff and you're like, oh, maybe they won't send lawyers after us. I don't know. But I'm calling this our force push. Wait, I said force. I didn't mean force. I meant power. Power push. That's what we're doing. So this is going to be called power push. I'm going to select the mask just by holding Alt or Option just to get the selection. And then with our smart object, the stock photography, I'm going to press this button down here to make a mask. It is still covered because the mask is on. We're turning that off. But I do want to edit this, so I'm going to unlink the mask, press V, so I can make sure you're on the actual object. You can move this around, adjust it. I'm actually going to scale it down because we have to keep that hand in view. I'm going to call this power push, and that looks good to me. Now, finally, layer styles, right? We've got our title, and let's double click to get into our layer styles. You have a lot of blending options. We're not going to use any of the blending options. We're going to move right to the styles of the layer styles. First thing I want to do is go to our default list. Our default list just pulls up everything. You can have it start with none, and you can just add them as you need them if you want. But I'm going to add a stroke to this. I'm going to move this over. Let's see, I can move this. Oh, maybe not. There we go. Let me just get back into it. Add a stroke to this. And the way to think about the layer styles, think of these as you would think of layers. So if something's covered up by something on top, you're going to have to rearrange it. So we're starting with strokes. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and make this a dark color because this is actually going to be an outline first. I want to give it a little bit of bulk, maybe just a little. So we're going to go 28. What does 28 look like? Sure. Okay, cool. I'm going to add a new layer on top of that, and this is going to be our main theme color, and I'm just going to make like an orange, something like that. Yeah, just something super poppy. But we lost our first stroke, but not if we bring this one back a little bit. It's sitting on top of it. So if we just put this to 26, we now have a little bit of stroke happening there. And then we're going to add another stroke, and we want this to be another dark color because it's going to be another border for us. And then we're going to pull this one all the way down to reveal. Yeah, I want a little bit of an edge, something like that. And then one more stroke on top, and these are all just stacked. That's all they are. And then I'm going to make this light, kind of a mid-gray, and pull it back just slightly. Oops, that's way too far. So ideally, we would want to look at the one below and say 10, bring it back to 8, and that's what we did. So we're getting started with our theme, and the whole point of this is to show you that the layer styles can do a lot of heavy lifting. Once you get one made, you can just copy into the other elements. So yeah, that's what we're about to do. I do want to add a drop shadow to this. I'm not a huge fan of the drop shadow, but I do think it needs a little something here. In the bevel and emboss, the only thing I'm going to mess with is up here. You can adjust this to taste, but for me, I'm going to go to chisel hard, inner bevel, which is already selected. I'm going to go up so that our lighting is up, and soften. And you might be able to see it. There's a little bit here. Let me bring up the depth. There's a little bit of a chisel happening here. I do want to soften it a little bit because you can kind of see the striations. Let's see, and you can see clearly if I make the size bigger, but I don't want that. I want it just at that first border. Just there. We might be able to chisel soft and it might still work okay. I like it with it chisel hard. Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna keep that. And then the last thing I wanna add to this for now is the gradient overlay. And I'm just leaving most of this the same. You can adjust opacity and that sort of thing. You can change the angle, which we'll do later. But I want to go ahead and make this darker. And this is coming in from the bottom. I don't want it from the bottom, so I'm just going to change this to angle to 180. And then we can increase the scale if we want. It may be a little bit too dark, so just bring the opacity down. And I think we're looking good. So that is it. That's mostly it. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm kidding. Obviously, we've got a lot more to go here, but the heavy lifting has been done. Now all we have to do is save this, which I didn't do, but it's still here. Everything is here. You could take these and drag this effect to everything, but why do that when you can create a new effect, a new style, and I'm just going to call this star something. But I'm including layer effects. We didn't change any of the original blending options, so there's no reason to save that. And I do want to add this to my library. So I'm clicking OK, click OK, and there it is. Star is in our library. So now I'm going to hide this effects by just using this toggle. Let's hide the properties so you can see this a little better. I'm just going to come down the line and double click from my library. Boom. Well, that's solved. Info, sure, why not? Boom, that's solved. Button, boom, that's solved. But now we can just use those as a base. It doesn't have to stop right there. You can keep going and make changes, which is exactly what we're going to do. I want to bump up first to our action panel and double click. Before we double click, you can double click directly on the effect you want to change. So I know that I want gradient overlay, and when I click on that, it's going to go straight to that, which is, it's great. It's perfect. You don't have to keep searching and making all kinds of like assumptions about where you need to be. But I'm going to go ahead and just adjust this, add a gradient like that, and then we can click OK. That should be fine. I think I do want to make the scale a little bigger, and then bring that down. Click OK. You could save that one out if that is a theme that you wanted to keep. That would be fine too. Then we're going to move down to info, double click into that. And I want to turn off the emboss. I want to turn off the gradient overlay because text is going to live here. I don't want a drop shadow for that. That one's fine. And then the same thing with button. I actually just want to I can turn these off from here. No drop shadow, no gradient overlay. I'm keeping what stroke do I want to keep? I want to keep the top stroke. I want to get rid of the little borders. So get rid of those. And then I'll jump in and we'll adjust some things. So this stroke, I want to make a little bit more than middle gray, somewhere in there, I think. I want to adjust the first stroke to make it a little bit darker. I'm just adding a lip to this. It does have a bevel emboss on. I'm going to turn that off. Then at the end of this, I want to add a, what is it? Inner shadow. And it may not see anything because you're still on the edge of the shape. So sometimes you will have to change things like the size or the distance so that you can start to see what's actually happening. That's exactly what I want to do here. I'm going to increase the darkness on that shadow just to give us a little bit of a little scoop, a little bevel, and click OK. And man, we've got something. We've got something here. Let's go ahead and propagate this thing. I'm going to look in the chat and see if you guys have any questions. I hope you guys have fun with this. I hope you guys make your own little trading card. But let's start putting in some type. I already have all this type laid out for us just because I knew that I wouldn't have time to do this. But we've got our power push. Yeah, it's just a power push. It's a legendary reaction. I'm going to align this to center. And then we've got a little description of what it is. Let's see. This might be tricky to grab. It always does this. It's so tricky to grab. Okay, there we go. Line that. Reaction produces psychic. I may have spelled that wrong. Psychic energy only. Target is temporarily stunned when halted or told to talk to the hand because the face ain't listening. I think these may be older cards, like a collector's edition. I think that joke is probably from many decades from a long time ago. Yeah. Let's continue with this. Let's go ahead and these are just embellishments that I wanted to add down here. Because usually there's like numbers and figures and math and, stuff you have to do with these games, which is a lot of fun. So there, we've got a card, but we gotta have a little fun with type, right? We can't show you layer styles and not have fun with type. I think that would be unfair. So let's add a new artboard. And I'm just going to start again with a new layer, Shift F5 to add, yep, all good. Sorry, Photoshop, did not mean to offend. And then let's just go to the type tool. This is the type tools we were talking about, and these are going to be called star cards. Nope, not star dards. That's a different, I don't know what that is. And then I'm going to center this up. I think that looks good. I would make this smaller usually for the borders, but just because, we're kind of, it's already kind of hard to see this. I'm going to bump in here just a little bit. And then double click. We could start with the base that we had on the other ones, but why do that when you can just start from, I'm kidding. Always start with the base if you have a good solid base. I do want to use some of these strokes. I am going to change how they work though. This first stroke, I want to change to a lighter color. I want to make like a scoop, like a little bevel scoop. That's what we're aiming for here. And I want this to be like maybe two pixels. 2. If you press enter, you're done. Layer style will collapse. You'll have to click back into it, double click to get back in. So just make sure you don't do that. If you just move to the next field, it'll make it work. And then I do want to add one more stroke, but I want to put this stroke to the outside and then bring it down to like, I don't know, somewhere. We've got a little somewhere in there. And then I want to add in, let's add our shadow first, inner shadow. I'm going to bump this up. It's actually not too bad already, but I want to smooth it out a little bit, just on the edge, and bring the distance back. And so we're starting to get that bevel going in there. And here you can change the contour so it's a little bit smoother. Let's bump that back. That did change a little bit. All right, so that's kind of working for me. Just want a little bit of that. And then I'm going to use our bevel again, but this time I'm going to go down with the light, bring this over to smooth, and then let's see, soften goes up, size comes down, something like that. Click OK. And now we have a little bit of star cards action that we can edit if we want. If you bump into your character and you wanted to character panel and then you wanted to change this to a different font, you could. It's all editable. We're not changing it, but I do want to add one more flare on the just so we get every layer style possible. I'm going to add to the background. Let's turn our gradient overlay on. Let's add, let's make a little, here, let's do this. I'm just going to put, wait, why did it do that? Okay. I want 2 areas of dark, 2 dark swatches on the gradient. And then I'm just going to add a light one in the middle if it'll, there we go. Somewhere like that. Click OK, maybe in there. Okay. We can switch this to multiply, or multiply is probably, we'll leave it at multiply. Barely see it though. Overlay. We're going overlay. Either way, I want to add a pattern overlay. We don't want this to be in the forest, so we're going to switch this over to our grid here. Set that to multiply, or overlay, I guess, works as well. Change the scale, and then we can come back into gradient and change the direction, something like that. And now we have our star cards, and that's going to do it for us. I hope you enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun for me personally. There's a lot more coming up. We've got Tyler Pate with the Illustrator Creative Challenge coming up next. And yeah, that's going to do it. Happy May the 4th, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you later. Bye.